Palantir CEO Alex Karp meets with Volodymyr Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine. Obviously, Ukraine is in a horrible invasion right now from Russia, and they're doing everything they can to fight off what's going on. We've seen pretty much every U.S. company leave Russia as a result of this. Palantir obviously never worked in Russia. And Volodymyr Zelensky said that Palantir was the first company to come and actually visit Russia since the invasion has happened to discuss digital strategy and deal with all the issues that are going on. Big deal. Big news. We've never seen a public CEO meet with the president of a company that's being invaded right now from Ukraine. The reason why this is so big for all of us as Palantirians is because we were speculating that they were playing a role in Ukraine. Now, it wasn't really speculation because they admitted it. Sham admitted it. I mean, in the earnings call, they basically admitted it that they're doing stuff. They're working with the Ukrainian refugee crisis. They've said they're helping companies that are affected by supply chains there. But this picture, this photo op made it very evident that, when the CEO of a company flies all the way to a war-torn country right now to meet with their president, their leader, that something bigger is going on than what we thought. So let's start with Sachin. Let's start with you. What were your thoughts when you saw these photos, and what's your analysis on what's going on right now?
So I got a photo quite early from one of my friends from Palantir. He sent this message to me on LinkedIn. He didn't say anything. He just posted this photo. And the whole idea of Palantir, I think, let's take a moment and a step back, like why people attack Palantir in general. People say, okay, the company is not unique. That is one of the criticism that comes along, like 100 companies do. Like if you listen Tom Siebel on their call, he says AI does thing that you require 100 companies to do, but he cannot explain that why he gets such a low revenue and low relation. So the common criticism of Palantir is that it's not unique. The second thing is that everybody said is that the government sector is kind of shrinking. Okay. Now, what happened in the case of Ukraine? I mean, a crisis came unannounced. It came fast. People need solution as of now on the ground today. And Palantir kind of stepped up. So a lot of companies can claim, okay, and this is a difference that comes between build and buy and get something running and time to value. All these things we talk about. So this is the thing that is coming together and seeing in action. Now, this is a message to everyone who is sitting in Europe, in a strategy, in defense, and everyone who is sitting in US and in Canada and all the allies, that do you want to spend time and effort in building something, or you use something which is already there and is actually working? So it's quite big. So it's like, for example, like Kathy Wood said that the government business is shrinking. What is government business in general? Government business in general, the biggest part is defense. And in defense, what it matters is what is at the stake. So when things and the stakes are high, I mean, there is no option. There is no second choice. That's what it is coming out of it. So in general, it's quite bullish. Okay. And eventually it should translate into reasonable bounce in revenue as well. It is also a message to a lot of commercial companies as well, because, like, for example, and this is what I discussed earlier once with Code Strap, that you need to understand that the T junction of how the platform works. So think about that government has a platform that is working for supply chain debottlenecking in Ukraine. Okay. They are also using Palantir for defense and attack purposes or data analysis purposes or whatever. And then there are companies who are kind of managing their own supply chains and their own employee movement, and they are using Palantir. So when Palantir products interact with Palantir, the efficiency is quite high. This is the example that Shyam has discussed in past. Like, for example, in BP uses Palantir. Now their Meta constellation is also in Palantir. So what is happening that a Palantir operating system, when connects with like a Meta constellation, which is the parallel and horizontal layer working on Palantir, the integration is whole different level. And that's what they were able to achieve. So this is something which you cannot achieve, like if you are do it yourself and you have like this Frankenstein monster of like 20 companies working together. So it's a quite clear message in my opinion. Okay, the company's stock has been beaten, but so what? I mean, every company's stock is beaten in last 12 months. I mean, it's not like that the peers are like 20% up and Palantir is 80% down. It's just what the market is. Back to you, man.
Hey, let Jay in. He's on the waiting room.
Yeah, he's not in the waiting room yet, but I think he said he's going to be there soon.
Gotcha.
Okay, Chris. Yeah, your thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was Okay, so I've been somewhat critical of Alex Karp and the compensation and everything. Um,
Somewhat critical.
okay,
First of
really
all,
critical.
Sachin, have you been seeing this rampage that Chris has been on
I
our
have
bully
not.
Alex?
I would just say lead by example, but I'll stop at that. The one thing I did like about this whole announcement was that you know what you needed to motivate your employees. One of the ways that you can motivate your employees outside of compensating them with more money, of course, is giving them a more focused mission. And this is kind of a restatement to their employees to say, look, we're doing something that's really big, that we're really important. So stick with us, right? So there are a lot of employees that are like, you know, what's going on with the stock price and everything else. So this is a great, believe it or not, distraction from you know from the downside of things. There are some inherent risks with publishing this, which I'm not the biggest proponent, but I'm not also against it either. And the way I would present it is this: if you wanted to have the Russians, especially hacking, you know, being the Russians that are tons of hackers and stuff, if you want to get noticed by them, this is how you do it. You literally go to the president of Ukraine and say, "Hey, we're going to provide you all the tools and information systems you need in order to target Russians." So the Russians are highly developed in their warfighting capability with like hacking and stuff. So I think right now, and one of the good things about Palantir is that they actually have a very strong information security platform. So I think they'll be fine, but right now they're going to be huge targets for the Russians. There's also another component, and this is one of the reasons why I've always been a proponent of separating their military part of their company and their private company. And the reason for that is if you want to make Palantir hurt, which I'm sure the Russians right now, they're like, yeah, we need to target Palantir. How are we going to do it? Well, one, you can target Palantir directly. Might not work very well because their infosec is probably really good. But what you can also do is attack any company that works with Palantir. If you are able to get into their system, even if it's not necessarily related to Palantir, what ends up happening is you create this negative conception that anyone that works with Palantir, we're going to go after, and that may not be the best thing in the future. So I don't know. It's one of those things that this was a gamble in terms of PR on Palantir's part, and I guess now the court is. I mean, the ball is in Russia's court. You know, what are they going to do? How are they going to respond?
Real quick, let me highlight David's response. He says, "Damn, it's almost like a philosophy vision. Vision is incredibly important when it comes to actually achieving these goals and missions." And yeah, I mean, like, look, they had a mission and a goal and a vision to protect Western values and individual rights. And you know, for those people that like to put Snowflake and Databricks up there, those guys are not in Ukraine right now. I think it's just that simple. Dom, your thoughts on this stuff, or Sachin? Then Dom, go ahead, Sachin.
So I think just to responding to like what Chris said as well. See, people who are against Palantir, they are against Palantir even before this happened. I mean, Russia even before this, they knew. I mean, they have a decent, I believe, intelligence. They knew that Palantir is active. They will anyway. And people who wants to attack Palantir, they already attack. The way I see this PR campaign is, yeah, I mean, people are anyway against it. They are attacking us. Why don't we make something out of it? So to me, is like, yeah, it puts them in the crosshair, but it also gives a message to Silicon Valley. I mean, there is so much virtue signaling that is a lot of companies are doing about Ukraine, and I mean, you see everything is Wall Street people are running campaign, but how many companies are actually helping the Ukrainians on ground? And how many companies are actually helping Ukrainians on ground to actually come out as winner from the situation? Okay, there are a lot of people who are trying to help Ukraine to slow down the deterioration or the victory of Russian war. But how many companies are actually telling that, yeah, you can actually turn around the tables? And that is different. So when I talk about like SpaceX, what the SpaceX has done, what Palantir is doing, it's a different stake. Another thing, like strategically, they made a choice very early, 17 years back, that they are not going to work with Russia or China. Okay, now if you see from Silicon Valley point of view, these are like at least China is one of the largest market. And a lot of companies from Silicon Valley, they go virtue signaling in China and then they drop their pants there. So Alex Karp has made it extremely clear that this is what they are not going to do. So it's about walk the talk. Yeah, we decided A lot of companies are thinking nowadays, investors are thinking, okay, when this is happening in Russia, when this is happening in China, what is the exposure my company has? Palantir says we have none. Actually, we have an uptick. So they made choices, okay, for a certain scenario, and that scenario is kind of playing out. So in a way, it was well thought. Okay, Dom.
Yeah, they're put by not doing business with Russia and China way back when and making that decision. That was a patriot decision, right? That was a putting the country first before revenues decision. When you look at, and this is the world that I play a lot in with cybersecurity, those are the two biggest country nation states that attack the U.S. when it comes to cyber attacks. 52% of attacks last year were Russian attacks in general for cyber criminal attacks. So to Chris's point, they're very well educated and skilled in this manner for offensive attacks. And so Palantir did not want to have anything to do with that. And I think that's very honorable. And then to take it a step further and show up there in Ukraine and say we're gonna boots on the ground, like we're gonna make sure that we're contributing, not just sending money over or whatever, but actually our technology helping towards the cause. It also showed, though, from a business perspective, and what Sachin was saying earlier, was reduced time to value. They were able to get a solution in place and utilizing Gotham and helping out that government right away. So you wouldn't see Microsoft or Google or anyone else over there, and they couldn't turn around a solution that fast in reduced time to value to where they're seeing immediate benefit. So I think that's a great PR piece for the fact that, you know, they're adding value. Now, obviously, they're not going to be able to disclose everything that they're doing, but I once this is over, you better believe that there's going to be some contracts that they win with not only Ukraine, but NATO in general. And I think, Amit, I think you posted something earlier this week about Germany, possibly some things with Germany. And then, of course, we've seen some new commercial contracts. But I look at the technology of reduced time to value. That's what sells. And if you can do that and do it profitably, you can build an empire. The caveat is what we've all been talking about, and I heard you guys last week talk with CodeStrap, is can they sell it? Can they modularize it and simplify it down? I've heard you, Jay, too, talk on your channel about this. Can you deliver it in a meet the customer where they're at today and solve that challenge, get the revenue, they'll get hooked, and then you can expand on Foundry. And I think they're slowly doing that with modularizing a lot of the stuff that's out there. But from a sales perspective, they need to be more aggressive, and they need to make sure that they continue meeting customers where they are and not just focusing on the bigger ultimate picture.